How you doing? Greg Nichols here, broker and owner of MFN Realty, a local real estate firm in the Sacramento Valley. You can get more info on who we are and what we do at the Learn More or comments below. But I would like to really just jump right to talking about the Christmas story because that's what I'm excited about in this season. And I'm a Bible teacher and ordained minister also. So I sell real estate, and I've done that for many years in this city. But now let's get started on this Christmas story. It kind of all starts when this pregnant gal and her husband are needing to head to the city of Bethlehem to be sent, get on the census rolls and be taxed. So it kind of all starts with a emperor, Caesar Augustus, needing to get some more taxes out of the people. And so but it was prophesied that by God I believe in the book of Micah in the Old Testament of the Bible, and that was hundreds of years before this event. And it was prophesied that this baby Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. And so for this to come to pass, that census had to take place. So there had to be an urge by Caesar to go ahead and call for one. And so, that's how God works, and God's will gets done. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So they needed to take that journey. And of course, you know the story. They did not there was no room for them in the inn when they arrived there. And she was about to deliver, and someone offered them a stable because that's all they had. So she was going to be among animals and a manger and hay and rough conditions. But this baby, according to God the Father, was supposed to be born of the most humble kind of birth. And he'd get visitors in the middle of the night, shepherds who had been out with their flocks, and a host of angels that appeared to them in a vision and singing and telling them where to go find the baby. Now, wise men didn't show up at this point. They came to a house at some other time, and the baby was older, maybe a toddler, but that's really the way the real story went. And they came bringing riches, and I'm going to get into that in a later episode when I do part 2 of this. But I wanted you to see something about these two special parents. They were both descended from King David. And there's a lineage in Luke, and there's a lineage in Matthew, and there is the begats, they call them, and it says Luke goes back from Jesus all the way back to Adam. Now the Matthew begats, they go from Abraham down to Jesus. So you need to see that Mary was descended from David, and then from one of David's sons whose name was Nathan. And he was one that never made the throne of Israel because his brother Solomon did. And Solomon, who was descended from David, is who Joseph was descended from. So in all those stories of Christmas you ever heard, Jesus was being watched over by a relative, Joseph, who had no part in impregnating Mary, for it was a virgin birth, but he had a part in raising Jesus. And God's will was that this godly man descended from David and Solomon. Joseph was descended from Solomon, a man of great wisdom, and Joseph needed that great wisdom when he had to figure out on his own, or with God's help rather, in a dream, he had to figure out that Mary had not been unfaithful, but that she was impregnated by a miracle of God and the Holy Spirit. And so when he figured that out, then he got right with the program and proceeded to be what Jesus needed him to be, which was a wise man. And then later, he was able to save the baby's life, because King Herod had put a hit job out on the baby to have all the babies slaughtered around that area, but they were already gone when those soldiers came to do that dastardly deed. They were already gone on their way to Egypt, thanks to Joseph and God directing him. So there was a wise man. It isn't any wonder, because he was descended right from Solomon, when Mary was not. But they were distant cousins to each other, Mary and Joseph. So I wanted you to see this, that now it does say in these two genealogies that it appears like Joseph had two fathers, but that's because they insert Joseph instead of Mary in Mary's begats. You get that? You can see the bias against women and for men that was going on in those ancient times. So Joseph would make the begats of Mary, but Mary would not. But there's more to that story, because the father of Mary was a guy named Heli, and it said Joseph was the son of Heli, except he was really the father of Mary. It says in the other begats that Jacob begat Joseph. Now, that's the other begats of Matthew. But I'm telling you that Jacob was a man who was the biological father of Joseph, and Heli, who was the biological father of Mary. Possibly they were brothers or half brothers or something. In any case, it's possible Jacob was passed on, and Heli, Mary's father, made Joseph his legal son, which legally entered Joseph into the begats under Heli as his father. That's the reason there's two different fathers here. So that's a great point of interest. Needless to say, God wanted great people. He wanted them to have good breeding. He wanted them to have wisdom and righteousness before God, so that they would do the right thing with his precious son, Jesus Christ. Now, this whole event is how the sins of the whole world are forgiven by God for those who come to God and ask him to save them, forgive them, and then ask him to be their father and to walk with him. Now, I've done that. I was born again in 1982, so I've been a Christian for a long time. So anyway, I'm going to give part 2 of this because it's quite interesting. There's more little known facts that you'll find out in part 2. And then, so you can see more too about me and my company and learn more below. And you can hit subscribe on YouTube. You can hit like if you're watching this on Facebook. So God bless you. Thank you for listening. You have a wonderful day.